What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. This is the Love and Marriage Huntsville recap, season 6, episode 21. Where there's smoke, there's Marsau. So this episode definitely had a lot of smoke. As you guys see, this is Tisha's reaction in my thumbnail video. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into the recap. So it picks up right where Melody and Keke, leave off, where Keke is telling Mel that her knowledge of Marsau in a three. I'm trying to word this in a way that is okay for you too. Basically, he was in entanglement with two other young ladies, and so she said that Tisha's basically ignoring her, believing other people over her own flesh and blood. Melody is doing her best to, of course, put on her producer hat. Shout out to Mel. But she's, pretending, I guess, in the scene, because you guys remember a few seasons back when Tisha was basically shading Mel in regards to Martell buying Ariane a BMW and all these things. And Melody's marriage was basically unraveling right in front of all of us on public TV. But then Melody came back at Tisha and said, well, you need to take your babies to a babysitter, roll up to, Black or wherever Marsau was at, she was like 1 a.m, and you need to catch him. I feel like Tisha deep down, she knows that Marsau has not been faithful, because that Africa trip, I'm sorry, I still think about that. Like, this man said that he needed to go halfway around the world by himself for weeks on end, and just no explanation, no nothing, without his wife and children. I have never in my life heard of somebody doing that while they were married. If you're single, great. Please, travel the world, see different places. I love international travel. But I'm not married and I don't have kids, right? Once you get married and you have children, you have an obligation, especially if you're the man, like, especially if you are, and these men, they say that they're, traditionalists and all these other things. No, they are not. And speaking of these men who call themselves traditionalists, the next scene is with Maurice. And Maurice is, I don't know if he is in his supervillain era or what, but he goes and, he said that he's getting a Jeep for his wife, Kimmi. And initially, one would think like, oh, that's very sweet. He's buying her a gift. And then Maurice, of course, shows his true colors, puts his foot in his mouth. He says that he only buys her the Jeep. One, he's putting on these huge tires, okay, which I'm sure that's more so for him than her, to make it, like this big monster truck. So then he said that, he wanted to get her more of a status symbol. That's not his words, but that's what I'm using, because he seems very insecure and he uses their marriage cars, etc., for status symbols, okay, to try to validate himself via external means. So she tells him that she wants a Jeep, and he says, well, why don't you get a Maybach? In this economy, sir, like, no. And she's like, no, I want a Jeep. And he's like, okay, well, why don't you get a Lamborghini? So she's like, no, I want a Jeep. And this is him, retelling the story. I'm sure, Kimmi's probably told him 15 times what she wanted, being consistent, as Kimmi usually is, and him hearing what he wants to hear. But finally, he gets her a Jeep, modeled the way that he wants, by the way. So Marsau rolls up, and Maurice tells him he's getting the Jeep because Kimmi said that she wanted the hair to blow, or the wind to blow in her hair. And then Maurice responds, well, you don't really have that much hair for the wind to blow in. And Marsau was like, man, don't say that. Don't say that. Like, he puts his head down. Now, a broken clock can be, right twice a day, because Marsau and his brother Maurice, and I feel like all the Scott men, to be honest, during their time on the show have shown misogynistic traits. But Marsau was right in correcting his little brother. Maurice doesn't listen to Kimmi at all, not only in the Jeep sense, but also when, Maurice lets us know that he has a back injury, right? So he has like a belt to help support his spinal cord, in trying to help correct and alleviate the pain from his back injury. That's great. That's fine, right? So Maurice goes into, again, complaining about Kimmi not having the libido that he would like during her trying to survive cancer through chemotherapy. And Marsau, again, this is my recognition of him being the clock that's right twice a day. Marsau actually he came through during this episode. I don't say that often, but he did. He listens to Maurice describe Kimmi as having a mental barrier to her libido. And Marsau says, look at your back injury, right? He's like, that would be like me saying, oh, it's not really, your back. The pain is all in your mind. It's all, psychosomatic. And why don't you do some push-ups, some sit-ups, some jumping jacks, some, various rigorous physical activity, because the pain is all in your mind. It's not in your back. Maurice then says, and y'all, I'm not laughing because of what Maurice says. Again, I'm laughing at just the audaciousness and the audacity. He says, wow, this is quite a revelation. And, it's nice to hear someone's opinion other than your own. This man doesn't listen to his wife at all. Like that, I was like, he doesn't only disrespect her, not respect her opinions and her value system. He doesn't listen to what she says. He does not listen to her at all. Now, the inverse is true when it comes to Tisha and Keke. Keke thinks that Tisha doesn't listen to her. Tisha hears everything that she says. But I'm going to go to Stormi and Courtney for a minute. They talk about the website, which is huge. Tisha, paying a web designer, and I guess it was a template or whatever the case may be, but for her daughter's hair care line, and then it saying, if you have any issues and list, Canvas Beauty, that to me is just, it hits at your integrity as a business owner. It hits at your, it's a mark against your legitimacy for you to have Canvas Beauty on there. And Stormi, she's having pillow talk with her husband, and she's like, Tisha could have came to me for help. I would have helped her out. But she tells him about the cookout. He says he does not want to go. And that's fine. I actually respect Courtney, for dropping her off, because he recognizes his boundaries, right? Like, he doesn't want to put himself in a situation where things might become contentious, as opposed to Keke. So she goes to hug, her cousin Tisha. And while Tisha recognizes, Keke's husband by name, as she hugs him, as soon as Keke goes in to hug Tisha, then Tisha, kind of like swerves her hug, and she goes, in a different direction. Now, had that been me, I'd have been like, okay, that's cool. That's fine. Like, people don't have to recognize you. They don't have to acknowledge you. They don't have to give you, and I've done that myself. Like, I don't like people who, you're uncomfortable with at that time. Again, Courtney taking himself out of that situation at the cookout. You need to place boundaries, But I feel like her and Tisha needed to have a conversation. But Keke, and I feel like, her and Miss Wanda and their whole family are, their personalities come out, right, very similar in certain cases. So Keke gets upset when Tisha, swerves her. And then she's trying to talk and tell Stormi her story in regards to, what's going on while they're trying to play spades. Keke physically takes the cards out of Stormy's hands, throws them across the table. Then, when that doesn't give her the reaction she's looking for, she escalates it and she throws a drink in Tisha's face. And then Marsau, gets upset. He's like, they need to drug test your MFN, behind. And then, Keke's husband tries to defend her honor, even though his wife is 100% wrong. And she recognizes that in the next episode. And I appreciate that. Like she says, I have no remorse for what happened, or basically, or I guess the end result, she was like, but I do have remorse and I was wrong for what I did, like throwing that glass of whatever. People have said it was water. I hope so, but who knows what it was, whatever drink it was, in Tisha's face. As a grown woman, should have control over your emotions enough not to take the bait. Like if Tisha, curved her or whatever, that's fine. First of all, you guys are blood. So you can talk it out later on. They did come to terms when they were kickboxing a few episodes ago. I'm not sure why they're having the beef now. That seems like they can't, resolve it. But I'm sure that they could have come to some kind of agreement, at least for the cookout. There was no need to throw drinks. There was no need for your husband to get all, and upset in Marsau's face and all that. But it's to be continued. So we'll see the aftermath next episode. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As always, I want to hear from you. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Do me a huge favor. It's a free way to support the channel. And I will talk with you later. Take care, aces. Bye.